Last Monday's Toronto mayoralty by-election, that was an election like no other, with a staggering 102 candidates vying for the mayor's chair. Well, like any election, there are winners and there are losers. The big winner, of course, is Olivia Chow for prevailing. But one must wonder, given Olivia Chow's socialist leanings, given her tax and spend ways, is the big loser the city of Toronto itself? And joining me now from True North is the former Toronto Sun columnist for many decades who covered City Hall brilliantly, and that would be Sue-Ann Levy. Sue-Ann, thanks so much for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome, Dave.
Okay. Well, I guess, Sue-Ann, the first thing is, with Monday's result, did that come as a surprise to you?
No, actually, what came as a surprise to me was Anna Bayo's, the fact that she did so well, and that for a while, I would say probably a half an hour, when the results came in, I thought she was going to win. And, you know, although I'm not a huge fan of Anna Bayo, she would have been a heck of a lot better than Olivia Chow. So then Olivia pulled ahead, sadly. And
Yeah.
you're right. You're right about Toronto. It's the big loser.
I think so. And you know what, Sue-Ann? I hope Olivia Chow proves me wrong. I hope we don't see some of the predictions emerge of people saying, get ready for Toronto becoming Portland North. But we know how she leans. I mean, she's all about more so-called safe injection sites. We know she won't do anything about homeless people camping in public parks. She brags about not having a driver's license, so get ready for yet more bike lanes, i.e. more congestion. Or, Sue-Ann, is there a surprise here? Is she going to be more moderate than we think she shall be?
No, I don't think for a minute she will be. She promised during the campaign, one of the few promises that she actually managed to etch out. She promised 200 kilometers more bike lanes in the next, well, she said 4 years, but actually the term is 3 years. And she didn't mention one word about crime in her whole platform. So it's like crime doesn't exist in Toronto while it escalates, fueled, I believe, by the drug trade. She's a strong proponent of safe injection sites, as you said, and a strong proponent of enabling, the lawless to remain lawless. She hates the police, and I really fear for the city going forward.
You know, Sue-Ann, 200 more kilometers of bike lanes. I mean, where's she going to put some of those bike lanes? On the Gardiner Expressway? Oops, I forgot. She also promised she's going to tear that down to even further add to gridlock. So really, Sue-Ann, what happened here? I know Olivia Chow has name recognition. I know all the unions got behind her. Or maybe, are people like you and I who lean right, are we contemporary dinosaurs when it comes to the city of Toronto? Is the city of Toronto that far left, that woke, that progressive, that this is the template moving forward?
Well, Toronto has always been a very liberal city, and it's really hard to break through as a conservative. And you saw what happened to Rob Ford when he won, and people were so disgusted they wanted change. You saw how he was harassed by the media from day one. And, so it is a very liberal city. It votes liberal. The downtown Champagne socialists were the ones really that put Olivia Chow in office. And I fear that things are going to get so bad that, people will be crying. I don't think they've woken up enough yet. I mean, I don't know if you've been downtown lately, but it's shocking how much the city of Toronto's downtown has deteriorated, with drug addicts, weaving their way from safe injection sites, and storefronts up for lease. And it just looks tired. And well, let's just say that the previous mayor, John Tory, left it in a terrible state. And I don't think the downtown leftists, well, they must not care. They really must not care how it looks. They just care about their perks and what they're going to get from Olivia Chow.
I was downtown last night, as a matter of fact, Sue Ann Levy, walking down Yonge Street, and what a different vibe. The first thing I noticed, all the fast food restaurants, the Tim Hortons, the Subways, they had their dining area and washrooms closed because you open that up and drug users are going to come in and camp out there. It's terrible. It's a Toronto that I've never experienced in my life. But and I wonder how ready Olivia Chow is to tackle the problems of Toronto in 2023, especially with rising crime all across the board, at least in all the violent areas. Sue Ann, I have a good memory. I remember your column going back to 2014 in the Sunday Sun. You had interviewed Olivia Chow, and your takeaway was how out of touch she was. For example, you brought up the issue of what do you think about the Pan Am Games, which was coming to Toronto the following year, 2015. And she said, the Pan Am what? She had no idea about this multi-million-dollar boondoggle. So I'm wondering if she's up to snuff on so many of the important files Toronto is facing a decade later, Sue Ann.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's an emphatic no. 9 years later, well, nearly a decade, you could see from her campaign that she wasn't up to snuff on the issues that were affecting the city. She promised more library hours, and I mean the bike lanes, and to tackle. And it wasn't even to tackle crime, to tackle, because lefties always think that the crime stems from mental health issues. And it's not the mental health issues, my dear. It is the drug trade that's fueling the crime. So she kept talking about she was going to beef up 911, the 911 calling center, and put more social workers out on the street to deal with crime. So if I have a knife to your throat, Dave, and I'm in the subway and somebody tackles, and I call 911 and a social worker comes, do you think that the criminal is going to care one bit about what a social worker has to say to them? She is completely out of touch. She doesn't have any fiscal. She's a fiscal illiterate, as far as I'm concerned. She kept talking about how she was involved on Mel Lastman's budget committee. Well, Mel Lastman kept her on a very short leash because I was there when she was a counselor back in 2001, 2, 3, and 4, and she got a few goodies to do her pet projects, but she had no handle on spending, and and I don't know how she's going to get rid of the $1 billion plus deficit that John Tory left the city.
Oh, I think it's going to swell under her reign, Sue Ann. And again, I'm begging her to prove me wrong. But we mentioned how the unions are backing her. That's a formidable force. And I noticed a lot of media outlets seem to be on Team Chow. I kept hearing this narrative, visible minority woman, the daughter of a family that came impoverished to Canada. What they didn't talk about was in the early 90s. Do you remember, Sue Ann, how she and her late husband, Jack Layton, were making six-figure salaries? And this is 1990s dollars. And they were living in subsidized housing. I guess it proves the old adage correct, Sue Ann? Socialism ain't for the socialists.
Yeah. Well, I loved how all the Champagne socialists were weighing in about how she's going to change the city. Well, look, you just have to look at her track record. And that was just one of many things that I tried to point out, over the course of the campaign. The fact that she and Jack decidedly and deliberately left more than 100 people living on Home Depot lands in that infamous tent city for 3 years. And they got free tents from them. And then the only reason that got cleared out is because it made the Sunday New York Times, and Toronto was embarrassed. So, look forward to more encampments, Dave. I'll meet you down. Say, let's set our watch for 2 months from now. We can meet downtown at one of the many parks where, there will be more encampments. I mean, I think it's going to be an open season on There's going to be bike lanes. And I don't think Olivia is that bright. And I think she's out of touch. I think her campaign reflected the same messaging she gave 20 years ago, 9 years ago. It didn't change at all. And I call her, remember David Miller, the NDP mayor that, couldn't get along with the unions and caused us a garbage strike? I call her David Miller on steroids.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. We rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.